कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back to the Srimad Bhagavad Gita Sarartha Varshini Tika on the Gita by Vishwanath Chakra Thakur and the Rasik Ranjan commentary, which is a sub-commentary to the Sarartha Varshini Tika. So yesterday we just completed the last verse purport by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, 5.29, and we began the sixth chapter from Aruruksha to Arudha stage. So in the beginning stages of Ashtanga Yoga also, there is Karma Yoga. So without desiring the fruits or without taking shelter, anashrita karma phalam, one who does his duty out of a sense of duty, karyam karma karoti. He is a sannyasi and he is a yogi. Gaicha nitya sannyasi. And Krishna is again not propounding the philosophy of going into the state of action to inaction and then coming back to action to uh, coming back to from inaction to action, because ultimately he's going to introduce bhakti yoga. So that is why this is very similar. Again he's emphasizing, and we discussed why ashtanga yoga is within karma yoga, because there is activity here. Nishkama karma yoga is there, and especially 6.3 makes it very clear. Aruruksho muni rogam karma karanam uchyate. So there is nishkam karma yoga, I can say. Only in the yoga ruda you give up in the highly advanced stages. And what is called as sannyasa, yam sannyasam, yam sannyasa here refers to ashtanga yoga in one sense, because there is karma sannyas, and he has passed through the stage of ashtanga yoga and then come to the Gyan yoga and then come to ashtanga yoga, or he might have directly come to ashtanga yoga. It depends. It can vary from different mentalities and different personalities based on what kind of association they get. Aru yam sannyasam prahur yogam tam vidhi. Yoga means here nishkam karmiga. So in one sense, karma yoga, jnana yoga, and ashtanga are all one. Yeah, they are all one. Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions. Sankhya yoga and karma yoga are one. Previously it was meant. Now ashtanga yoga and karma yoga are also one. So actually, Sankhya yoga, ashtanga yoga, and karma yoga are non-different. So we saw this also. And then we saw this Aruruksho Mani Yogam, Karma Karanam Uchate, Yoga Rudasita Seva, Shama Karanam Uchate. So in the Aruruksha stage, in the Ashtanga, which are the stages which are part of Aruruksha? Who will answer? Which are part of Aruruksha in the Ashtanga Yoga? Tirthapada Prabhuji is there. Rupanuga Jivan Prabhuji. Yes.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी प्रणाम प्रभु जी
Yeah.
यम नियम आसन एंड प्राणायाम
Yeah. Why these are said to be part of Karma Yoga only? What is the reason? Why these four? What is the reason?
because actions are required in this.
In this actions are required. Because once you go into, Yoga Ruda stage, there is just meditation. You stop all actions. Yoga Ruda Sita Seva Shamakaranam Uchate. And then how do you know that one has attained the Yoga Ruda stage? Yada hi na indriyarteshu and na karmasu sajjate, and is sarva sankalpa sannyasi. Is Yoga Ruda stage. Now, in the Yoga Ruda stage, ultimately in meditation, actually japa is also meditation. The mind is pivotal. The mind is the most important. So the control of the mind is very, very important. As long as the mind is not fully controlled, then meditation is not possible. And that's why we find japa is not a easy, task. So that's why two verses about controlling the mind and the importance of mind control. These two verses come here, 6.5 and 6.6. So let us now recite 6.5 and 6.6. 6.5. Uddaretatmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hi atmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmana. So here, Uddaret. Uddaret means Prabhupada says that it is one should deliver. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions one should deliver from the endless cycle of birth and death. And Atma. So Atma can mean the soul. But if you take only this one meaning, Atma, 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 and Atma. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times it has come. 7 times. So one must deliver the soul by the soul, and the soul is a friend of the soul, and the soul is the enemy of the soul. It doesn't make any sense only. So the Atma, according to Amar Kosha dictionary, has 8 different meanings. You know? So the Atma can mean the body, Atma can mean senses, Atma can mean mind, it can mean intelligence, it can mean the soul. It can also refer to the super soul or the supreme soul also. Atma can also mean determination. So like that, it has various meanings. And the acharyas know in what context, what is the meaning. So that's why one should deliver the soul. So first meaning here, Atma is the soul. By the mind, Atmanam. Here it is, by the mind. It's a derivative of Atma. Natmanam, and not degrade the soul. No, degrade the deliver by the mind and not degrade the mind. It is sorry. Let's see what Prabhupada, how he translates in the second line. Conditioned soul, yes. Natmanam. Correct, it is. It's the mind only. And Atmaiva, Atmaiva here is the mind. So here it is mind again. He Atmano Bandhur. Now here Atma refers to of the soul. And Atmaiva, again Atmaiva is here, again the mind is the enemy. The mind only can be the friend of the soul and it can be the enemy. Now when it is a friend and when it is an enemy, that will come in the next verse. So like that, Atma can have different meanings and we have to see the context, and Prabhupada in his purport explains quite in detail about it. But let's see now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport. So I'm just, there's a lot you can speak on the mind, and there are a lot of books also written on the mind. Especially Chaitanya Prabhu has written a lot of books, and one should actually, if he wants to really study the Bhagavad Gita and study the nature and workings of the mind, one should definitely, I recommend that one should study them. He has written a lot on his series, on his, in Mind It and The Eye to See the Eye, and like that, many other series are there. So the mind is like mantra, you know. So, mantra from learn from Kaikai's two mistakes. What? Don't hear mind submissively. So, you know, Kaikai heard submissively mantra and poisoned mantra's, heart and consciousness. Although Kaikai is also one of the mothers of Lord Ram. So similarly, Mantra was crooked. She was a hunchback and she was crooked. So she was a personality existing outside, and, you know, one can deal with it. But this mind is internally within ourselves. And when we hear the mind submissively, the mind acts like mantra. If we can't avoid hearing, don't act without consulting somebody whom you trust more than the mind. So we should have someone whom you can have more trust. And without consulting them, we should not do any actions. So this is very, very important. Otherwise, the mind is very cunning, crafty, and very tricky. And the mind only has trapped us in material existence. The mind which is attached to sense gratification, it has been attached to sense gratification for millions of lives. So it's very difficult. And that's why, first thing, that's why Savayamana Krishna Padarvinda, Ado Guru Pada Ashraya. One should, take shelter of the spiritual master and follow the dictations of the Shastra, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So the mind is dictator from within, it dictates. And you have to decide whom's dictation you want to follow. You want to follow the dictation of the Lord, who's a super soul, who also can speak, but right now that voice you cannot hear. So the super soul externally manifests in the form of spiritual master. So that's why we have to learn these two mistakes, not to hear submissively the mind. And sometimes journaling helps a lot. What the mind is speaking now, write it down and then evaluate with your intelligence. Speak to your friend or a counselor, and that's how, we should, not act on the mind, Since the soul has fallen into the well of samsara by attachment to objects of the senses, with effort, one should deliver that soul. With effort. One should deliver the soul, Atmana, by the mind, which is devoid of attachment to the object of the senses. So Prabhupada in his commentary quotes the Amrit Bindu Upanishads, Maneva Manushanam Karana Manda Mokshaye. So it is the mind only which is of the human being, the cause of bondage and liberation, he says. Bandhaya Vishaya Sango. How it is bound? Because it is attached to sense objects, the mind. And Mukteva Nirvishayam Mana. When it is detached from sense objects, then it is cause of liberation. So that's why Prabhupada says, therefore, the mind which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness is the cause of supreme liberation. So that's why one should, become detached from the object of the senses. One should not let the soul fall in the well of samsara by the mind, which is attached to the objects of the senses. Therefore, the mind, Atma, is both the friend and the enemy of the soul. So that's why Atmaiva Atmana Bandhu, Atmaiva Ripuratmana. So when it is a friend and when it is the enemy, that is spoken in the next verse. Bandhuratmanatmastasya Bandhuratmatmanastasya Yenevatmanatmanajita Anatmanastu Shatrutve Vartate Atmashatruvat. The mind is the friend, Atma Bandhu, of that soul, Tasya Atmana, which has conquered the mind. Yena Atmana Jita. The mind is an enemy of the soul, which is not controlled, who has not controlled the mind. Anatmanastu Atmaiva Shatruvat Shat, Shatrutve Vartate. So, simple formula. Right now, how do I know whether my mind is a friend or an enemy? Who will answer? Who will answer? How do I know whether my mind is a friend or an enemy? How do I know? Who will answer this? Very simple question. Yes, Sri Lalita Sumukhi Mataji.
Prabhu, I'll try. Prabhu, I don't know whether it's correct. When I do activities, when the mind suggests me to do activities that takes me closer to Krishna, then it is a friend. And when it does activities that takes me away from Krishna, then it is an enemy.
Well, that's true, but just from this verse and translation, can you tell?
Yeah, when the mind listens to me, then it is a friend. And when I listen to the mind,
how do you know that the mind is listening to you and you are listening to the mind? It's so tricky. It's like one entity within. Here, you just see the translation and see and tell me when the mind is a friend and when is the mind enemy. You need not do
So
some research. The answer is
the
crystal
mind,
clear like the sun here.
so uh, I mean, when the mind is conquered, then it is.
Ah, when the mind is conquered, the mind is conquered. Then you have to understand when the mind is not conquered or not controlled. So simple formula. Now we can judge for ourselves whether our mind is, we have conquered the mind or we have not conquered or we controlled the mind or we are under the control of the mind. So we have to understand this very clearly. Another simple formula, as you also mentioned and I also mentioned, that when we are always thinking about Krishna and we are not thinking about Krishna, then the mind is acting as an enemy. The mind is thinking based on, again, all the vasanas impression. So again, this is also very elevated platform. So that's why in Dhyan Yoga, especially Dharan, Dhyan, and Samadhi, the mind has to be completely conquered. And in the NOI, Prabhupada speaks in 8th verse about mind, because ultimately in Raganuga Bhakti, the mind has to be fully internally engaged, fully purified. So Prabhupada speaks about there in the NOI verse. So this is like a requisite for Raganuga Bhakti. you know so it's a very elevated stage where Rag R-A-G. 1 second. So to come to the platform of completely controlling the mind is not an easy task. That's why in sadhana bhakti the main battle is with the mind. It's restless mind. So Raganuga Bhakti. So Prabhupada speaks about that in the NI verse. So basically, very interesting. What is lust? No? If we wish to disobey the mind, we must obey Krishna. If we don't obey Krishna, we will have to obey the mind. There is no other in between here. So we have to understand whether we are obeying all the injunctions of the spiritual master and the injunctions of the Shastra. Or sometimes we obey that, sometimes we obey the dictations of the mind. Like that. I'll take up questions once I finish this. Please hold on. Okay. So, yeah. So this is what we can understand. The mind is whose friend and whose enemy? This verse answers. The mind is a friend causing benefit to that jiva who has conquered the mind. The mind acts as an enemy causing harm to that jiva who does not control the mind. That's it. Okay, now what are the symptoms of one who has conquered the mind? Now, okay, I have to conquer the mind. Now, how do I know whether I have conquered the mind? See whether you have these symptoms. Okay, now before I take the symptoms, 3 verses speak about the symptoms. So let me now first take up any questions you have. Yeah. Vinita Mataji, you had raised your hand.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, I need one clarification, some light on this. Like today, I happened to read 10.22 in the morning. Like over there, it is mentioned that of all the senses, I am the mind. Like Krishna speaks.
Indriyanam Manaschashmi.
Yes.
Hmm.
And here, like we have to conquer the mind.
Hmm.
So I want to understand this.
No, there it is in a different context. You have to understand.
Okay.
There, Krishna is speaking about Vibhuti Yoga. Vibhuti means Vishesha Bhuti, special manifestations where you can see powers. So in this world, you can see very powerful people. So in the Vedic times, the powerful personalities, people, would not discuss about cricket, football, and so-called famous players like Sachin Tendulkar or Virat Kohli now. They used to discuss the activities of the actual leaders of the universe, like Indra, Chandra, what the activities they are doing. They were their leaders. So among the Devatas, Indra is the leader. So, but Indra is getting Shakti from where? He's getting from Krishna.
From Krishna.
So Krishna is saying, no, I am that. You know, and like that, from the cosmological level to the heavenly level to the terrestrial level, he comes in the trees, among all the trees. Ashwata Sarva Vrikshanam. You can observe that, a Ashwat tree is very huge and it attracts. Seeing Ashwat tree, you get attracted. It is a special vibhuti of the Lord.
Okay.
So similarly, kings, Naranam, among the human beings, the king is a very powerful personality. And the king is exhibiting this energy and Shakti because it is coming from Krishna. So Krishna is saying ultimately where it is coming from. Similarly, among the senses, Indriyanam, Manaschasmi, among all the six senses, the mind is the most powerful and very strong.
Okay.
Mind has sometimes God-like powers, it is said. So that is why Krishna is identifying himself in the Vibhuti Yoga like that.
Okay.
So again, when we go in the 10th chapter, we'll go more in detail about it. Okay?
Yes, Babaji.
Okay. Navneet Kalramataji, you have question regarding these two verses which we discussed?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, yes. What is the role of intelligence in conquering the mind?
There is the role of the intelligence, and we will come to that a little later. Gradually, this knowledge is being given. Krishna spoke about, the hierarchy. Indriyani paranyahur indriyabhya param mana manasastu para buddhi yo buddhi parasastu saha. So the hierarchy is that, above the senses is the mind, above the mind is the intelligence, above the intelligence is the soul. So this is the hierarchy. Now, intelligence is the Sarati, and the mind is compared to the reins, and the senses are compared to the horses. So ultimately, the mind has overpowered the intelligence, and also the soul in one sense. That's why, Prabhupada says the soul has given power of attorney to the mind, and the mind is doing whatever it does and dictates. And that's why the mind has entangled the soul in material existence, because you have given power of attorney to him. So we are under dictation of the mind in one sense. Now that's why preaching happens to the intelligence. Guru Sadhu Shastra, as I mentioned in 343 when we were discussing. So by slowly, following the superior intelligence of the super soul directly instead of directly through Guru Sadhu and Shastra, we thereby the Sarati, that is the intelligence, controls the reins, the mind, and thereby the senses. So purification happens of the intelligence first, and with the purified intelligence, one controls the mind. And thereby when the mind is conquered, one has conquered material existence. And again, we can go more into details, but basically we have to understand mind is a product of, in the Shrishti, it is a product of mode of goodness. And intelligence is the product of intelligence, the senses and the pranas are in the mode of passion. And the elements, tanmatras, earth, water, fire, air, are in the mode of ignorance. So ultimately, the mind is like the reflection of the soul in the material world. So ultimately, it is because of the mind we are caught up in material existence. So when the mind is fully purified, because the intelligence first gets purified and then the mind gets purified, and when the mind is conquered, material existence is conquered. That's why Krishna says, Savai Mana Krishnam Padarvindo, or in the 7.1 Bhagavad Gita, he says, Maya Sakta Mana Partha. If the mind becomes attached to him, then you have conquered material existence. So that's how we have to understand it. Is it okay?
Just a follow up, if I can ask.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you said that intelligence is in the mode of passion, right?
It's a product of the mode of passion. In the creation,
So,
the creation of the elements.
so how would a lower in hierarchy control something which is higher in hierarchy if the mind is in the mode of goodness?
Yeah, that's why I did not go more into detail, but see, when we study certain things, like, I'll tell you classification. Classification, when we classify things, when we analyze, we have to analyze and see from that perspective only. And we cannot juxtapose two different perspectives and, come to some conclusion. Like, I'll give an example. In a class, no, there
Yeah,
are, boys and girls, So you
yeah,
can classify them in boys and girls. This is one classification. But then you can classify in a different way also. So then, okay, those who have come rank from 1 to 40, and, if there are
yeah,
80 students, rank 1 to 40 one side and 41 to 80 another side. So when you classify, then it will get mixed. Boys and girls will be together.
yeah.
So in classification, taxonomy it is called, I think, or I don't know what it is called in.
Okay.
Yeah, when you
So
classify,
that is just the Sankhya part of it.
the
How you
Sankhya part, yeah,
classify.
from the Sankhya part, you have to understand from the creation perspective, the mind is
That was
the
the
product
Sankhya
of the
part.
mode of control. Yeah.
More to good.
But
And but you will have to, yeah.
in terms of subtleties, the intelligence subtler than the mind. And the soul, the false ego still subtler than the intelligence. Actually,
So
you
the
have to deal with
intelligence
the.
gets purified first.
Yes, yes.
So
And
that
it will come
with
up.
the
It'll come
with
up
that
again.
moral, yeah, first, with that moral compass, you'll be able to get hold of your senses.
Yeah. And it'll come up in the middle six chapters, how the intelligence first gets purified and how that is, so you will get a more understanding there when we come there in the middle six
Okay.
chapters, especially in the 12th chapter. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So let's now see. We want to know whether we have controlled the mind. So these are the symptoms. Krishna speaks from 7, 8, and 9. Jitatmana prashantasya paramatma samahita sitoshna sukha dukkeshu tatamana pamanayo. A yogi who has controlled the mind. Jita atmana. Atmana here refers to the mind. Jita means one who has conquered, is devoid of all attachments. So this is very easy to understand. Prashantasya. Prashanta means the mind is free from raga and dvesh, all attachments and aversions. Has his soul situated in deep trance. Atma param samahita. Parama atma. So here you can see Paramatma samahita means it is absorbed in the Paramatma also it can become. And Param and Atma can be taken as two different words. The soul is situated in deep trance. In all conditions of heat and cold, Sita Ushna, and Sukha and Dukha, happiness and distress, and honor and dishonor. So you have to understand whether we have equanimity with respect to Sita and Ushna, physical. Now, for many, this is a great barrier. And as long as we don't transcend this, just, few minutes and we need a AC. We can't tolerate the heat. You know. So one has to get used to it. Otherwise, if you're caught up in the external dualities of the body, forget then how will this is still more difficult. Sukha and dukkha. Why did he say this to me? You go in the fluctuations of happiness, distress. So you have not attained steadiness only. And man and apaman, my goodness, this is very, very difficult at the level of the ego. Very, very difficult. So you can understand by these symptoms. Okay, let's see. 3 verses show the qualities of a person who has attained steady meditation, Yoga Ruda. He has come to the Yoga Ruda stage. For Yoga Ruda stage, the mind should be controlled. And what are the characteristics of one who has controlled the mind? These verses are speaking. So let us see what is it. A yogi who has controlled the mind, who is devoid of attachment to objects, Prashantasya, has his soul, Atma, completely param, situated in samadhi, samahita. In all conditions of duality, heat and cold, happiness and distress, respect and disrespect. Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The following symptoms are found in someone adept in the yoga process, Yoga Ruda. He controls the mind. He is devoid of attachment and hatred. I mentioned raga and dveshana. That's what prashantasya means. He remains. Okay, something is wrong here. Hold on, Prabhuji. We will take up questions after these three verses. If you want, you can. He remains and undisturbed should be not there. And word has come unnecessarily good. He remains undisturbed by material happiness and distress and honor and dishonor, and is absorbed in trance. No. Okay. Sukha Dukha Manapan. Sita and Ushna is not much spoken by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but it's understood. Now, next. Jnana Vijnana Truptatma Kutasto Vijitendriya Yukta Iti Uchyate Yogi Samaloshrashma Kanchana. Now, here, this term has come for the first time. Jnana and Vigyan, and we will discuss. Triptatma. Kutastha is again another term which has come first time. Vijit Indriya. Yukta. Yukta means he is connected. Yoga variant is Yukta, but yoga is trying to establish a connection. But after he is connected, it's called as Yukta. Itti Uchyate Yogi. He's said to be a yogi now. Because he's connected now. And that's why Samaloshrashma Kanchana. Okay. Now Kutastha, actually every Sanskrit word has a figurative meaning also. Figuration, sorry, 1 second. Just a minute, give me little space to write. Not able to write clearly. Means you can picturize that word, because all have rupas, figurative. I'm just. So anyone knows Kutastha in English, what it means, a figurative word, what you can think of, Kutastha. Anyone knows? I know it is difficult, but still we want to see. It has to do something with the blacksmith or the goldsmith especially. Anyone? Tirtpat Prabhuji?
Krishna Prabhu, Dandathana
Yeah.
Prabhu. Hammering Prabhu.
Hammering, but actually, there is an instrument called as an anvil. How many of you know this?
Yes.
On the anvil, they keep the gold ring and they hammer. The anvil, I don't know how you draw it, because it's a hard, So the ring gets shaped, but the shape doesn't change. So similarly, one was Vijitindriya, one was controlled his senses, people come and hammer him. They will become agitated, but he doesn't become agitated at all. He's like an anvil. He's kutastha. He's unshakable. So that is what is like kutastha, So I just wanted to give it. He is satisfied by scriptural teachings and realization. So Gyan is, uh, Gyan is transcendental knowledge. Gyan is transcendental knowledge, and Vigyan is realization. So generally, we have to understand this is not like digital, it's quite analogous. We might have, say 20% gyan of bhakti literatures, and we might have 1.5% vigyan. And gradually this might increase to 60%. And maybe this might go to, say, I'm just giving a rough this, 5%. Because realization is not so easy. And say this goes to, there can never be 100%, please understand, but I'm just giving, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, all the Acharya's books, the complete gamut of Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. But this will gradually go from 45%, 50%, when the Gyan completely transforms into realization. This is what in the Bhagavatam it is mentioned. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavat tattva vigya no evam prasanna manaso evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. This is Bhagavatam 1 to 20, I think, or 19. Let us see. 1 to Tadaramash, yeah, 20. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavad tattva vijnanam, realization. So vijnanam is scientific, Prabhupada says, realization. So then you are free, mukta sangi. That means this is bhava stage. So the stage of bhava, it's completely, the gyan is full realized in the form of vijnan. So jnana vijnana truptatma is, who is pervaded by one nature. Is pervaded by one nature, kutastha. He cannot shake him. What happened now? Okay. Completely in control of the senses, Vijitendriya, and one who considers a lump of earth, stone, and gold as same. Samalostra Ashma Kanchana is called a yogi. Yukta iti uchate yogi. So for the yogi, this vision of seeing equally earth, Ashma is, stone, and Kanchana is gold. So for a devotee, this equal vision means, he will take earth to building temple. Stone also, he will see it equally to build temple, and gold for the deities ornaments, like that. So that is his equanimity. Because these are Ashtanga yogis, and they, there is no question of engagement of the energy in the energetic. There is only detachment, So it's a one kind of a inactive negative process it is, So that's why it is not so easy. So for devotee, this is the vision that he treats equally, Prabhupada, our, who is it? Guru Prabhu, Guru Prabhu. Yamuna Mataji's husband's name is what? Anyone remembers? Keshavnath Prasad, yes, Guruji?
I think Guru Prasad probably.
Guru Prasad,
No, no.
not Guru Prasad. It is
No,
Guru
no.
only something.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the book he wrote also? No, he wrote a famous book also. Very nice book. What it is? Anyone remembers?
Gurudas Prabhu.
Gurudas, yes,
yeah.
Gurudas, yes,
Gurudas.
Gurudas. So Gurudas Prabhu was the temple president of Vrindavan, and Prabhupada came from abroad to Delhi, and he was driving in the car to Vrindavan, and Gurudas Prabhu had been staying in Vrindavan. So Prabhupada was extremely grave in the taxi, and Gurudas Prabhu thought he will tell some very ecstatic leelas of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, but Prabhupada did not speak. Prabhupada was very, very, very serious. He thought he must be thinking about some Radha Krishna pastimes, like that he was thinking. Prabhupada then, after a long time, when he reached, the temple construction was going on, he asked, where is the cement? Prabhupada is thinking about the cement. And that's also Krishna consciousness. Samaloshta asma kanchana. So we use everything in Krishna's service, That's the advanced stage of consciousness. So that is for the devotees. So there are two obstacles on spiritual path. Desires originate from the mind and entrap the karmis. So the desires are obstacles, they come from the mind. And the doubts and originate from the intelligence. Doubts are related to intelligence and they entrap the jnanis and even the yogis also. In fact, Gyan and Yog path are in one sense non-different also. There are slight subtle differences between these two paths. So, the subtle body has this mind and intelligence component. The mind has to do with desires, and the desires, deviate us and trap the soul because the mind goes into a detour, takes us into a detour. And the doubt, samshaya atma, which we spoke, na? So that's why purification of the subtle body means, by studying the Shastra, we will desire Krishna, and by all the doubts which Arjuna is asking questions and our doubts when we are resolved, then the intelligence gets purified. So that's how also the purification happens. Now coming to Gyan and Vigyan. So Gyan first is, hearing, we hear with our ears. This is called as Shravanam. And then we, what? We meditate on what we have heard. This is called as Mananam. And then this is called as Nidhi Dhyasan, where we go into deep, meditation and apply those teachings in, and internalize it and act according to those teachings. So there is realization. So this is how the journey from Shravanam Mananam to Nidhi Dhyasan. So Prabhupada says, hearing, contemplation, and assimilating, he says. Assimilating. As long as, you eat the food through your mouth, but you don't chew it and the food goes inside, then you can't assimilate. So similarly, you hear from the ears and you don't contemplate on it deeply and go into deep contemplation, then you cannot internalize it. You cannot assimilate it. So that's why the journey from Gyan to Vigyan goes like this. Okay, let's see what Vishnu Chakatakur has to say. He is devoid of desires, being satisfied by knowledge attained by teachings and realization. Jnana Vijnana Truptatma. He remains situated in one nature at all times. Kutastha. He's like an anvil. Note, he does not change but remain fixed in Atma. So there is no change in the anvil. Anvil, though it is hammered, the ring, the gold ring, that shape is changed, but the anvil shape doesn't change. Since he has no attraction for any objects, he sees as equal a lump of dirt, loshta, rock, and gold. Samaloshrashma Kanchan. Okay. Next, third symptom. Surin mitrari udasina madhyastha dvesha bandhushu sadhushu apicha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate. He is better, vishishyate, who sees the natural well-wisher, Surin, the friend, Mitra, the neutral person, Udasina, the meditator, the enemy, and the relative. Madhyastha Dvesha Bandhisu, the sinner and the pious person. Sadhusya Picha Papaji has the same, Samabuddhi. So equal perception towards people here. Surin is a close, intimate well-wisher. Mitra is a formal friend. Ari is enemy. Udasin is neutral. Madhyastha is mediator. Dvesha is envious person. Bandhushu is brother. Sadhu is a virtuous person. And Papi is a vicious person. So to maintain this, Samabuddhi has been used. Vishishyate. So Prabhupada, in his lecture on this Bhagavad Gita, he mentioned this is very, very difficult, to maintain samabuddhi towards all these kind of people, So one who can do that, he again understand that he has actually controlled the mind. The yogi sees equally the person who wishes one well, Surit, by his nature, one who actually does good out of affection, Mitra, the killer, the Ari, one who is neutral in times of conflict and honor, Udasina, the meditator who tries to resolve conflict between two sides, Madhyastha, the person who deserves hatred, but he harms one, Dvesha, the relative, Bandhu, the follower of Dharma and the follower of Adharma, Sadhu and Papeshan. This position is superior to then of seeing dirt, gold as the same, because those are objects. They are made of matter. But people who treat him sometimes, as enemy and friend, that is not so easy to maintain that equanimity towards people. Okay, so that ends the first section from Aruruksha to Arudesteja. Now, after having Krishna described the importance of in the Yoga Ruda stage, the control of the mind, he spoke about two verses, how the mind is a friend and enemy, and who has conquered the mind, the characteristics. Then he will start describing the practice, from practice to perfection in yoga, from 10 to 13 two verses. In this, there are three sections. 10 to 15 speak about the realization of Brahman, 16 to 30 realization of Paramatma, and 24 to 32 realization of Bhagavan. So we'll try to go through this section today. But up till now, if you have any questions, we can take up. Any questions, any clarifications? Up till now, what we have discussed. Tukaram Prabhuji, yes, you had a question. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
My understanding is we are discussing about Ashtanga Yoga, but the three verses are applicable to Bhakti also?
Yes, whatever is applicable to Ashtanga Yoga is equally applicable for Bhakti Yoga and to a higher degree. One who is practicing, Bhakti Yoga, you see, I gave the example, Samalostra Ashma Kanchana, he sees equally, stone, iron and gold. And how a devotee sees everything equally, he sees equally by engaging all the three in Krishna service. The cement also is more important for him. And gold is also important because that has to be used in deity service, for the jewelry and all, like that. And even gold you can say as money, Prabhupada, he said, sadhus, money means, they will say, no, 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 it is Maya. But Prabhupada say, I will open up my arms and take it because I can use it in Krishna service. So that is his equanimity, So that's how we have to see that these are to a higher degree manifested in devotees. What characteristics are mentioned for the Ashtanga Yogi? So you will see that when Krishna will speaks about the characteristics of devotees in the middle six chapters, it will include the characteristics of a Sita Pragya spoken in the second chapter. It will include the characteristics spoken about a Jnana Yogi in the fifth chapter. It will include the characteristics spoken about the Ashtanga Yogi in this chapter. And to some higher degree, he will speak. So the characteristics are still, higher for Bhakti Yoga. Is it okay?
Right, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions you have regarding this section, what we discussed up till now? Then we can go to that last. Only the first section. It's quite simple. And we will go through this now. Okay, let's take this 10 to 15, realization of Brahman. Please now carefully hear and understand this because it's not easily understood. So there is Yama and Niyama. Fruits of Yama, this is in the Patanjali, Ahimsa. Others give up their enmity to you. Satyam, what we say will be endowed with power and will come true by practicing Satyam. Asteya, true wealth shall come to you. When you don't steal others' wealth, then true wealth will come to you. Brahmacharya, one attains power. Smriti Shakti, Dharan Shakti, and Oj Shakti will come. Aparigraha, the tendency to possess. Insight into the karmic cause of our present situation as well as our present actions will impact our future. This is, the fruits. And the fruits of niyama, saucha, detachment from selfish materialistic bond to one's body as well as the body of others by saucha. Santosha, highest happiness is attained. Tapa, impurities are removed and the perfection of the body and senses arise. So adhyaya, connection with God. Ishwara paridhan is perfect samadhi. So these are the fruits of yama and niyama. What are the yama and niyama? Yama is ahimsa, satyam, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. And niyama is saucha, santosha, tapa, swadhyaya, and ishwar paridhan. Of course, all these, yama and niyama are not dealt now in these verses, but some will come up. Yoge yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi stita ekaki yata chittatma nirashir apparigraha. So apparigraha comes here. Without possessiveness. Apparigraha. Prabhupada also translates, freedom from possessiveness. That's how he translates, I think. Let us see. 6th chapter. Free from the feeling of possessiveness, he says. Feeling of possessiveness. You might possess many things, but you still don't feel that it doesn't belong to you. Then you don't possess anything, in fact. You're akinchana, or nishkinchana you are. So, the Yoga Ruda yogi, now only a Yoga Ruda yogi can actually meditate, should always observe his mind in samadhi. Atmanam yunjita satatam. Yunjita here has come. The term yunjita. Yunjita means actually what? Should absorb in trance or samadhi. Okay, already the meaning is here, in samadhi. Of course, what Prabhupada has to say about yunjita. Must concentrate in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is mentioning about concentration directly in Krishna consciousness. Satatam, always, So very exalted state this is. And living alone in a solitary ekaki rahasya. Now Ashtanga Yogi is being mentioned. Prabhupada says, one should live in the association of devotees. And Prabhupada says this process is not practical in this age. And that's why Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. That's what Prabhupada writes in the purport. And many scholars, and philosophers, they heavily critique Prabhupada, uh, yeah, here he mentions, yeah, here or in the next verse, yeah, here he mentions, Hare Rama, it's not possible, that, sacred place refers to this, but it's not possible. Yoga society in big cities, this is all a big farce, So that's what, Prabhupada cancels. He says, no, the verse is speaking something, but, the Acharya is cancelling. So they heavily critique. But Prabhupada is mentioning from the conclusion point of the Bhagavad Gita, because ultimately Bhakti Yoga is the highest. So he's directly giving his Bhakti Vedanta purports. So not understanding the mood of the Acharya just on mere scholarship, they commit a great offense, So that's why we have to understand, the teachings of the Acharya by studying one who has learnt and realized the subject in the Guru Shish Parampara. So here, the Yoga Ruda should observe his mind in Samadhi. Yunjita means he's linked in Samadhi. He's absorbed in trance. He's meditating. He's absorbed in Samadhi. Living alone in a sacred, solitary place, being controlled in mind and body. Yata Chitta Atma. Where have you come across this word Yata Chittatma? Anyone remembers? And even Nirashir. And even Parigra word has come. Which verse it has come? Anyone? I'm giving a hint. It is in the 4th chapter. Who will answer? You all have to now connect. Yukt, you have to become yukt by connecting the different verses of Gita. Who will answer? Okay, Zoom, yeah. Who will answer? Tirthpad Prabhuji. Haribol, are you there?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhuji, 4.2 and 2, Nirashir Nirchitatma.
Nirashir yata chittatma tektva sarva parigraha. Okay, I have Nirashir yata chitva tektva sarva parigraha. So you can see very similar. I had mentioned control of mind and body, mind and soul, mind and senses. It can mean all the same. So here also that yata chittatma refers to the mind and body without desire, nirashir, and without possessiveness, a parigraha. You know, he doesn't feel that he possesses this body also. The yogi performs yoga with its angas. So beginning with yama and niyama. So some are mentioned here. I have quoted all the yama and niyama. That description starts with this verse and ends with Sa Yogi Paramo Mata in verse 32. So from 10 to 32 will go. He has attained the stage of Yoga Rudha, the stage of steady meditation, should remain engaging the mind, Atmanam, in Samadhi, Yunjita. So Yunja is again a derivative of Yoga or Yukta only, but Yunjita has a deeper meaning, that is in Samadhi. Bhaktivinoda, whatever he does to maintain the body, he remains free from the attachment to the fruit of action, Nirashir, Yata Chittatma. Okay, next verse 11 and 12. Sucho deshe pratishtapye stiram asanamaatmana natyuchitram nati nicham chailajina kushottaram tattekagram manah kritva yatachittendriya kriya upavishadasane yunjad yogam atma vishuddhaye, establishing his own solid asana. Atmana stiram asanam pratishtapya. No, he establishes his own solid asana. So that's why one should sit on an asana to do dhyana. Japa is dhyan. In a clean place, Suchodeshe, that is a temple, or in the Grahastha's house also it is simple. Not too high, not too low. Now, why not too high, not too low? What is the reason? Anyone knows? Raise your hands. Not too high or not too low. What is the reason? Anyone knows? Think about it. Anyone? Rupanuga Jivan Prabhuji. Why not too high or too low?
Krishna will from.
Yes.
We will try just to.
Pardon?
I will just try you.
Yeah, try.
To keep the mind on in one point, center.
But how that high and low, too high or too low, how does it affect to keep the mind focused on the center? How does it affect? Tirthpad Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Prabhu.
Yes.
Like if you're sitting too high or too low, the positioning of the body may not be proper for
No,
focus.
doesn't matter. I'm giving a simple example. You are in the temple hall, okay?
Yes, Prabhu.
Everyone is sitting in asana with a cushion, okay? But
Yes,
you
Prabhu.
will take, 10 cushions and sit, at a very high height, you still can be in the same position as others are sitting. But only thing you are too high, sitting too high, like, 10 cushions ke upar aap baithe hain, and almost like you are touching the ceiling, and that height you are sitting and chanting. So what's the problem being too high or too low? Think about it. If it is too high, I'm just giving an example. Like, suppose you go to a country. Okay, one hand is yes, Tukaram Mishkin Prabhuji. Yes, let us see what you have to say.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I'm just trying.
Try.
Is it the comfort part?
No, it has nothing to do with the comfort part. So,
Right.
if you are too high, you will develop pride. I'm superior to others. Like suppose Tirtha Prabhu is sitting in the temple hall and 10 cushions are there on him, and he's almost like halfway in the temple hall, his height, he's sitting on that height and all others are sitting low. So he'll feel proud, And I was giving example, like you go to a country where, you're 6 feet, and in that country, everyone is 3 feet or 4 feet, so you will feel proud. And too low also, no? Suppose you go to a country, you are short, 4 feet, and all are 7 feet, you will feel depressed. Yes or no? So that's why this also affects, That's why if you see people who stay in high-rise building, they naturally tend to become proud, we are staying on high levels, they think. But the mind also, it's not good for the mind. In fact, you can go crazy staying in high heights or 100 floors building, 200 floors, people that's why sometimes jump and commit suicide. So it's not good for the mind, in one sense. So that's why not too high, not too low. With kusha, then deer skin and a cloth on top. So the deer skin is because to avoid all the reptiles, snake and all, so they don't distract the meditation. For us, just a cloth is sufficient. Sitting on the asana, tatra upavishat asana, concentrating the mind on one point, ekagram manakritva, controlling the activities of the mind and senses. Yata chittendriya kriya, she should engage in yoga. Yogam yunjat for purification of Atma Vishuddhai. So Atma Vishuddhai, where this term had come again, who will tell me? Atma Vishuddhai, where you had come across this? Who will tell? I'll give you a hint, 5th chapter. कायेन मनसा बुद्ध्या केवल इंद्रियैरपि योगिन कर्म कुर्वन्ति संगम तत्त्वात्मशुद्धये. So it's for the purification of the consciousness. Okay, Vishwanath Chakratakura. Okay, I'll note this here, 5.11. Please note down in your Bhagavad Gita also. He establishes his own asana with a kusha on the bottom, then deer skin, and finally a cloth on top. The yogi engages in meditation for purification of the inner organ or the consciousness, Atma Shuddhai. This freedom from disturbance, which makes the internal organ very subtle, is suitable for direct realization of Brahman. So here, Vishwanath Thakur is mentioning very clearly it is for direct realization of Brahman first. The Shruti says, Drishtate tva agrayaya buddhya sukshmaya sukshma drishibi paramatma, is seen by fine concentrated intelligence by the seers of subtle. Kathopanishads. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has not given any commentary. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayannachalam stira sampreksha nasikagram swam dishashchan valokayan prashantatma vigatabhir brahmachari vrate stita mana samyamya matchitta mat yukta asitamah para yukta is connected, keeping the body, hand and the neck straight, motionless and firm, gazing at the tip of the nose. So for us also, when we sit for japa, the body, hand and the neck should be straight, head should not be moving, and should sit in satvaguna, and we should not gaze at the tip of the nose, because this is for yogis. We should just gaze at the holy name or just hold one mantra, without looking in other direction. Dishascha anvalokayan. Oh, I don't know why the anvaya has not been done for this. Okay. With a peaceful mind, prashant atma, fearless, vigata bhi, bhaya nahi hai, and celibacy, brahmachari vrate sthita, withdrawing the mind from the senses. Mana samyamya, machitto, meditating on me. So here you can see directly there is machitta. The yogi remains absorbed in devotion to me. So this we call it as what is called as the devotional Ashtanga Yoga. It's not just Ashtanga Yoga which Krishna is speaking here. because it is mat chitta and mat para, very clear. Kaya refers to the middle section of the body. One should hold the middle of the body, the head and the neck straight without movement. Withdrawing the mind from objects, mana samyam pratyahar. The yogi remains thinking of me, the beautiful form with four hands. Mat chitta, absorbed in devotion to me. Mat para. So he meditates on the Paramatma who is the four-handed form. Note, as with jnana, as mentioned in 517, yoga must also include bhakti in order to realize Paramatma. Now we are very much aware that Tad Buddhas Tad Atmanas was mentioned, and by that bhakti only one can realize Brahman. So here in bhakti has to be included in order to realize Paramatma. Okay. Now, first result, if you do this much, Yunjanneva sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasa shantim nirvana paramam mat samsthanam adhigacchati. Constantly engaged in mind in meditation. Yunjaneva sada atmanam. Because his consciousness is devoid of sense of this. Niyatamanasa. The yogi attains adhigacchati, destruction of bondage, shanti. So he attains destruction of bondage. The platform where liberation and realization of the impersonal Brahman can be attained. Nirvana paramam mat samsthanam. So that's also word-to-word meaning. Even Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions mat samsthanam is my form of nirvishesh Brahma. Prabhupada, in his purport, let me see in the word-to-word meaning, how does he translate? So Prabhupada, mat sthanam, the spiritual sky, the kingdom of God, because Prabhupada doesn't want to get us to get us stuck up in, Brahman. So directly he mentions this in his purport. Okay. Continually engaging the mind, Atmanam Yunjan, in Dhyan Yoga, because of the consciousness is devoid of sense objects, Niyata Manasa, he then attains the dissolution of samsara, Shantim, in which supreme liberation, Nirvana, is attained, and in which he attains continuous existence in me as Nirvishesh Brahman, Matstam Sthanam. So this is the first level of realization he'll attain, where is liberated, he is cross samsara, cycle of birth and death. Thus, constantly practicing yoga, yogi's material consciousness is destroyed. It's destroyed. Subtle body is destroyed. If he is not devoid of my devotion, then that yogi becomes fixed in me and gradually achieves a transcendental nature and supreme peace. Peace. My goodness. In the form of liberation from matter. So this is also what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. Now let's go to realization of Paramatma, which we will take up tomorrow. So any questions, any clarifications you have up till now what we have discussed? No questions? Okay, then we will stop here. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय, शील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। हरे कृष्ण।